Welcome. I know I'm early. I just thought I'd have a little chat first and then we can listen to some really fantastic education points. I'm not that early, cool. So the way that this works today, thank you very much, is that we have 4 glorious speakers who are going to get up today and share their education presentations with us. Of course, as we know, we're sitting in the room where the most important conversations are going to be happening this afternoon. So good on us for this choice. At the end of each speech, at the end of each presentation, if they are under their 20 minutes allocated time, we'll have some questions. If they're not, they're going to get off the stage as fast as they possibly can, hand over to the next person. I'm not going to ring a bell. I'm going to be doing an interpretive dance at the front when it's time. They've got a few minutes left. It'll be something to do with like strangling myself or something like that. So don't worry if I do that. Nothing is actually wrong with me. Right? No need to call 000. I can't call 000 myself, of course, because I don't have a phone. And at the end, too, we're going to have 10 minutes where we'll get everybody back up. So I'm hoping that we've got this is your job. Your job as the gang in the room is to mine the gold, to listen to what our speakers are sharing with us and to mine the gold out of that for yourself, but also to mine some really good questions. Like to think about, even if it's an observation that you think, hey, wouldn't it be cool if today we got a chance to have a little bit more of a talk about this? So that's the role. I'm not going to stand on stage. I'm going to sit here and have little conversations in between. Could you please welcome, here we go, because it's the time now. I've filled in that time deliciously. Here we go. I've made nicknames for the people today because they've got very nice names but bad luck. Our first speaker up is Loz, Lauren Grimshaw, and she's of course the senior educator at Cleanaway, and she's going to do Australia's largest bin rollout, education strategies, insights and next steps. So could you please give Loz the biggest round of applause? And I'll just let you know, Loz, when you get there, your time starts, okay?
Thanks, Kate. All right. Thanks, everyone, for coming today. So, as Kate mentioned, my name is Lauren Grimshaw. I am a Senior Education Officer at Cleanaway, and today I'll be presenting on the education strategy of one of Australia's largest bin rollouts. Just point in that direction. All right, so the city of Moreton Bay is home to over 500,000 people across a mix of urban, rural and coastal communities. In September of 2024, so last year, Council launched one of the country's largest bin rollouts, delivering 125,000 green lidded bins to eligible households, with servicing commencing in December 2024, so about 6 months ago. So this program aimed to divert 15,000 tonnes of organic waste from landfill, freeing up landfill space, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, moving towards a circular economy and building a more sustainable future for the region. But for Council and Cleanaway, delivering the bins was only half the job. The real challenge was ensuring that residents understood what goes in the bin and how to use their new curbside bin correctly. So pre-rollout audits showed that 23% of what Moreton Bay residents were putting into their general waste bin was GO materials. That included grass clippings, leaves and branches. In many cases as well, this material was contaminating our recycling bins, which I'm sure all of us are very familiar with. Over the years, we've seen a call for a garden organics bin, not only from residents but from local councillors as well. Cleanaway, on behalf of the City of Moreton Bay, has been running Facebook ads for many years, targeting Moreton residents, often about recycling, but the most common question that we have been receiving is, when are we getting a green bin? So that was a common theme on all of our education material online. So although one of Australia's largest councils, the City of Moreton Bay was one of the last major Queensland councils to roll out a garden organic service. And why was this? Well, this allowed us the opportunity to learn from other councils. The opt-out model ensured broad coverage and more effective collections from an operations perspective. And in some cases, Cleanaway trucks were driving long distances to service only a handful of bins in an opt-out model within some LGAs. An opt-out model also allowed for maximum landfill diversion as well, so that was pretty crucial to make the most impact. So starting with Go instead of jumping straight into FOGO was a practical decision. Within the region, we do not have access to food processing facilities, and Moreton Bay were actually able to process the Go material with existing operations at their landfills and sites. So starting with Go was a way to make immediate impact while laying the groundwork for possible future organics recovery. So who received a bin? The rollout aimed to target residents that were putting garden organic material into their general waste bin. So in stage 1, all resident properties with a land size between 300 and 2,000 square metres automatically received a garden organics bin. And this was because properties under 300 often have limited or no garden space, and residents with properties over 2,000 were already managing their garden waste on site through composting, mulching, or using private gardening contractors. So at the time of the rollout, at the start, residents could only opt out if they used a professional gardening service or they used a green waste collections contractor. But as the education campaign grew and more awareness was put up online and the website, council started to receive feedback that land size alone wasn't a good enough indicator of garden waste generated at a property. So in response to this, council actually introduced 2 new reasons why a resident could opt out, and that being their property had less than 25 square metres of vegetated area, or they composted at home. When we first announced the rollout, we did receive negative feedback from the community, as expected, but not as much as we thought. And over time, as residents started to understand the benefits of the service, those who had actually opted out had opted back in again. So we started to see that shift in behaviours. And to make the program more inclusive, from March this year, council actually opened up opt-in to properties outside of that range of 300 to 2,000. So for those houses that did, a small house that may still have vegetated area, or households larger than 2,000 that did see the benefit in the curbside collections. We actually have many large properties applying for multiple bins, and council are currently receiving about 30 applicants a day for the garden organics collection. So what did our education strategy look like? So all the information that I just covered was crucial to understand as an educator in order to present that to the community. So when we work out in the community, engaging with local residents, it was crucial to have a good understanding of the operations and the background and the reason why for the program. So our education strategy was broken up into 2 core elements, that being leveraging digital education delivered by council's communications team, and then on-the-ground face-to-face engagement delivered by Cleanaway, as well as other contractors and council. We decided that it was best to focus on a few high-impact activities rather than spreading ourselves too thin. Over the years, we have worked with Moreton Bay in the education space, and we knew what worked for our residents within Moreton Bay, so we focused on those initiatives, which I'll get into a little bit more. And that's also me with GoGo, which I will touch on a bit more soon. So what did council's communications strategy look like? So it was broken up into 3 key phases. Phase 1 was pre-bin delivery and part of the delivery rollout. So it was all about creating interest, awareness, and providing information about that delivery service. Messaging was mostly through council's social media and website. But as we worked through this phase and bins started to be delivered to residents at their house, so council started to expand their communication strategy to billboards, to banners on the side of the roads, banners at waste facilities, councillor newsletters, and also shopping centre displays as well. So phase 2 was all about the servicing, so making sure that residents were aware of the bins coming, as well as starting to share information about when the servicing would actually begin and when their bin would be delivered to their house. So making sure they were ready for the service to kick off. It was all about using the bin correctly and understanding how the service works, and also then building long-term behaviour change as well, which takes us into phase 3. Which is all about contamination management and behaviour change, which is in what we're in right now. So now we have a better understanding of the response from residents. We're able to tailor our education strategy further. So what other resources were created to assist with the Garden Organics rollout? Cleanaway worked with the City of Moreton Bay to develop an animation, and I wasn't sure if this is going to play today, but I think we're good. And this animation covered what goes in the bin and all about the Garden Organics service, and we have been developing animations for many years with council, and they sit on the website. We use them for Facebook advertising, and we also play them at our pop-ups and shopping centres as well. So I will play this for you now. Maybe not.
Let's talk about your Garden Organics bin and get set to go. Your Go bin can be used to dispose of everything that grows in your garden, including branches, leaves, and grass clippings. Did you know, before Go bins were introduced, garden organic waste made up 23% of what we threw away in our general waste bins? With the Go bins, we're able to capture a good part of that, but large amounts of garden organics are still ending up in general waste. What a waste! Disposal of organic waste to landfill in our region contributes almost 16 times more greenhouse gas emissions than all of the diesel curbside trucks we have in service. Using your Go bin for garden organic waste will help divert an additional 15,000 tonnes of organic waste from landfill. This will greatly reduce greenhouse emissions and contribute to a greener, more sustainable City of Moreton Bay. After it's collected, your garden organic waste will be turned into compost and put to good use. But remember, plastic, general waste, food scraps, compostable packaging, plant pots, soil or bricks do not belong in your Go bin. Here are some simple steps you can take to eliminate contamination. Keep it loose. Don't ever bag your garden organic waste. Is it manufactured? Keep it out. Avoid placing bins under low-hanging trees, overhead wires, or near poles, mailboxes, and parked cars. Follow these steps to keep contamination from spoiling the composting process and increasing costs to ratepayers. Avoid any non-organic items and become an eco-champion. For more information, visit moretonbay.qld.gov.au/go.
Awesome. So other resources that assisted with the rollout included website information. So council made sure that all the possible questions that residents could ask were up on the website prior to launching. So they sat down with the waste teams, with contractors, customer service teams, and made sure that we could cover everything possible that we could think of. And it was a bit of a hub for all the information for the service. But this wasn't only beneficial for our residents, it was also really beneficial for educators and the customer service team as well. So we were able to go back to that to make sure that we were also sharing that correct information. And this was regularly updated as we learnt more, or we got certain questions through from our residents, and we were able to add them to the website. So Cleanaway also, as I mentioned before, has been running Facebook ads on behalf of council for many years, and we were able to do that for the Garden Organics service as well. So, this was during the launch and the education and awareness campaign, so aligned very heavily with the comms team and their messaging, and it meant that we were able to engage directly in the comment section with residents about questions they may have about the service, or complaints as well. There was plenty of those, but it was great to actually get that sort of live feedback where we could jump in and have a conversation with them. Council also created a mascot, which became very much a key feature of our in-person engagement, but as well as social media posts as well. So GoGo really acted as an icebreaker when we were having conversations with local residents, especially with young families. So let's meet GoGo. Maybe.
Hi, I'm GoGo, and this is your friendly reminder to only put garden organic waste in your lime green lidded bin. Think grass clippings, branches, flowers and leaves. Keep it clean and green and go like a pro. Hi.
Ooh. Okay, so what did our face-to-face community engagement look like? So as I mentioned, we've been working with the City of Moreton Bay for many years in the waste education space, so we knew what worked and how our residents like to receive information. So many years ago, we moved away from in-person workshops because we just weren't getting the numbers that we wanted, and started to actually go where the residents already were, where the foot traffic already was. So that looked like pop-ups in shopping centres, local markets, sporting venues, and it meant that we could have that live conversation with residents. We would often have a physical bin present, banners, handouts, giveaways, and GoGo was often there as well to assist. Oh, and our community engagement started about 9 months prior to the rollout. It sort of lined up with International Compost Awareness Week. That's when we first started to mention it to the community. All right, so we ran 50 pop-ups across 20 locations, engaging more than 500 residents at shopping centres, sporting venues and community events. And these were live conversations that we actually had with residents in person. So contamination, what does it look like? So on paper, our contamination looks quite good. We've actually done a really good job. But as we all know in this room, even a small amount of contamination can really cause a lot of issues with the end product of compost. So here's some photos. So far, since the servicing started, we have actually recorded 32 tonnes of plastic bags alone at our Dakka bin facility. So here's some images from our hoppers in our trucks. We've also recorded a large amount of non-organic garden-related material as well being put into the bin, so that looking like garden tools, saw bags, plastic pots. And we've actually collected 17,000 tonnes of, since the servicing commenced, and from that 100 tonnes of contamination has been recorded. So to put that into perspective, that's 50 of the top photo. So the question remains, have residents understood what belongs in the go bin? Yes, but as always, there's a long way to go. Education doesn't happen overnight, and in a community of over 500,000 people, we've got a lot of work to do, and we can't expect the community to engage straight away. The good news is that we've been working with council for many years on contamination management, and we plan to roll out our same strategy around driver tags, letters to repeat offenders, and recording through our Hopper and CleanerView, which is Cleanaway's internal system for contamination. How am I going? Okay, oh my gosh. So FOGO or no FOGO? That is the question. So in Queensland, we have sort of an evolving criteria and targets which make it very difficult to implement a FOGO service. And we're still very much in the building and learning stage. Not to mention, heat, humidity, compostable packaging and contamination all make it very, very difficult. And also a FOGO service would actually possibly mean a changing in collection frequencies, which we're not sure if our residents are ready for or we're ready for yet either. So at this stage, council are focused on making sure that we have a successful garden organics service, and possibly in the future, if the time is right, we will move to FOGO. So key learnings really quickly. So for us, delivering all bins on the first day of service was crucial. Messaging must have been consistent and aligned across all teams, so not just between education and comms, but also operations as well. That was key, that we all worked together and we're all aware of what everybody was delivering and the conversations we were having with the community. Know your community. If workshops aren't drawing in the crowd, have a look at your education strategy and find out what works for your residents. Have all your costs and processes up front, which I mentioned about the website information, that was crucial. Make sure your mascot fits through a standard doorway. So there was many instances of pushing go through a doorway and find somewhere to store a mascot if you are to have one in a suit, because they were things that we did not think about. So make sure your education material is practical. Connect the dots for residents. Make sure that they understand the reason why and their involvement, and really play on the benefit for them. If they're more motivated by cost or convenience, play on that when you are having those conversations. And lastly, collaboration. The success of the program was because we all worked together very well. Thank you.
Please give Lauren a huge round of applause. Well done, well done. My question was, how many green bins were there? No, sorry, in that photograph. Thank you, thank you. Wow, impressive. We're going to speak to Lauren at the end because she was right on time. See, my aim is to clap before the room next to us. Right? And so that when we do it and we whoop up really loudly, so they go, oh, I wish we were in that room. That's my thing. All right, now you would have noticed that Lauren was unbelievable at getting the slides, pointing at that. She was amazing. Next up, we've got Jen Cunningham, and Jen's going to be speaking about waste tourism, telling stories and halving waste. And she is the Half Waste Education Officer, of course, at Albury City Council. Would you please give her a very warm welcome?
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thanks, Kate. Now, see, it's always a bit of a challenge. Oh dear, more than a challenge. Oh, so it's not me. Oh, that's good. There you go. All right. Well, the presentation has already changed. Okay. There we are. Sorry. No, I don't need to. I'm good. Okay, so from why would you go on a tour of a tip to these tours should be compulsory. For 12 years, our community has been offered a tour experience of the Albury Waste Management Centre. Why and how has this tool become so embedded in our community engagement arsenal? What's its future, and what are the benefits of you offering this to your local community? So my name is Jen. I'm a teacher, I'm a storyteller, I'm a recent arrival to the waste industry. It's 1 year. 1 year I've been in the waste industry, and my first COPS. And I love taking people on tours of the Albury Waste Management Centre. So before I start, I just thought I'd ask, who here works at a waste management facility? Put your hands up. Great. Who here gives tours of that facility? Who wants to give tours of their facility? Great. And has anyone ever done a tour of the Albury Waste Management Facility? Oh, okay. Does anyone tell stories as part of their job? Yeah, great. Good. Okay. I don't know whether I should have put this video in because it's very, very amateur, but I thought I can't talk about a tour unless I give you a quick little insight to the tour. So excuse the quality of this video. Now, if anyone else has got high vis here today, please feel free to put it on because we're about to go on a tour and I will try and narrate. And if you get motion sickness, just close your eyes at the start. Okay, let's go. Let's see. All right. Through the gatehouse, this is the brains of the operation. This is where the data is stored over a weighbridge in and a weighbridge out. And people say, well, why do you need to go on a weighbridge out? Well, some trucks are full on the way out, empty on the way in. Down to the recycling centre, down Recycling Road, and you'll see this is organised. Organised material. That's how we like it. Okay, let's go behind the scenes. We're going to go behind the scenes. They're bags. What are those bags full of? Well, can you see the numbers on them? People want to know what they're getting and how much they're getting. This is commodities. This is processing. My favourite pile, what material is that? It's metal. So the tour group gets out at this point. We'll go and have a look at the poly machine. That's what's happening there, where this turns into this. Amazing. And then they get 10 minutes in the tip shop, which is adjacent to our recycling centre in our Aware store. I encourage people to look for projects of the future. We get a lot of groups that actually particularly focus on that. Pass the metal pile again because it's so cool. And then, yes, garden waste. What material is this? Well, is it just timber? No, it's not. So I talk about contamination at that point. Over the weighbridge to our push pit. In the old days, you used to dump straight onto the tip face. Now it comes into the push pit. Yes, there's recyclables in the push pit. Why do people put recyclables in the push pit? Amazing what school kids will answer to that question. And then the moment you've all been waiting for, now this is really behind the scenes, up to the top of our valley where the landfill is. Yes, look at the birds, aren't they amazing? We've got a full bird list. We can do interp on the bird if anyone wants it. And right up to the top, moments of awe and wonder. What can you see? Can you see this? Can you see the point where the clay meets the trees? That's the full point. Yep, we've only got till there. Now I'll show you where your green bin goes. Yep, your green bin that got picked up this morning comes here. Your FOGO gets delivered temporarily here. Wow, hardly any contamination. We're really good at that in Albury-Wodonga. Hurrah! Really low contamination. We celebrate that. Would you like to meet some of the hardest working recyclers in the whole place? There's thousands of them. What do you think they are? No, they're maggots. Let's go and check out packaged food waste. It's a real problem. Not talking about what goes in your green bin, but what comes out the back of the supermarkets. Thank you, GoTerra. We read the GoTerra sign, we look at the maggots, we marvel at the maggots. And now, back down, we're almost at the end of the tour, but do you think there's any waste when you build a house? Do you think there's any waste when you renovate a house? Yes, well, we've got a whole nother part of the tip for that stuff. Now, all of this stuff used to be separated out in the open. You can imagine this place on a bad weather day, in the wind, terrible, terrible. 20% we were diverting from landfill, but now we've got this. Ta-da! The brand new MRF. Yes, they're the materials that get separated out. Those people up there are happy. They've got tunes cranking. They've got temperature controlled. They're happy. And our aim is to get up to 60% diversion from the MRF. Let's get out now and go to the education centre. Now, this is an important part of the tour. This is where we dive deeper and we ask questions and we answer questions and we have conversations. So that's our tour, very briefly. I should just leave now, but I won't. Okay, so how did we get to this? So in 2008, there was an airspace plan and soon after a regional waste minimisation strategy. And a few important things happened 2010 to 2015 that relate to these tours. Changes started happening at the local tip. There was a new entry, there was a weighbridge. People were asking, what's all this about? At the same time, or close to the same time, the community got 3 bins, 2015, 10 years ago. Households were asked to consider their waste in ways that they'd never needed to before. There was a little show called War on Waste, and Halve Waste was founded and funded through a landfill levy. And that set up a secure funding stream for community-based education and educators and community engagement. There was an appetite in the community to see what was happening out at the landfill, at the Waste Management Centre, and there was a need to explain how this facility worked. Okay, so Halve Waste goals. All comes back to this. Prolong the life of the landfill, reduce contamination in curbside collection, and increase recycling and organics composting practices. So, where does the tour fit? Well, Halve Waste work has always been underpinned by behaviour change theories. Our business is behaviours. Use this bin for this waste and not this. Behaviour change is the cornerstone also of sustainability. Many of you in the room will understand that. Tours are a means to explain and to persuade in a vivid and a personal way why we ask people to do certain behaviours. Initially, there was interest and scepticism about what was happening at the tip, and that led to the earliest tours that were delivered by Andrea out of a car. Very soon after, there was a bus. I'll talk about that later. It was about opening doors. It was about inviting people in, transparency. A lot of people have talked about transparency today and yesterday. About reducing barriers, about allowing people access to see for themselves. But we also understand that those who have powerful experiences on our tours operate as community champions, sharing those experiences and promoting behaviours amongst their friends, their family and their colleagues. As speakers yesterday suggested, it's important to build awareness of the cost of doing nothing and the benefits of doing something. Tours work because they bridge systems between, they bridge systems and people. They bridge the local and the global. Sustainability is systems thinking, seeing the interrelatedness of aspects of waste help people understand this. Connecting into the economics at play in our recycling plant. Those white bags, the market needs to know exactly how much is in there and what type of plastic that is. Connecting to the good news stories of how low the contamination rates are in our FOGO. Connecting to the environmental impacts of landfill by driving up the hill and seeing the full line. And there's a growing body of work that we're interested in around the power of telling stories to drive change. And this comes a little bit from the business world, stories to implement change, but I think it incorporates what we know already. It's powerful to be in a community. There's too many notes on this slide, obviously. It incorporates what we already know, which is when we're in the community telling stories face to face, we're personalising that story. Okay, so how did these tours become embedded in our community engagement arsenal? Well, we've invested in a team. At the moment, there's 3 education officers. And they embody a personal and emotional commitment to the story that attendees often comment on. Penny was a passionate tour guide. Sarah was an enthusiastic host. And also on a weekly basis, we deliver school incursions, community pop-ups, and we stand on curbsides with our gloves on and assess how people are using their bins. So we bring our experience to our tours. We've got some wonderful casual bus drivers. That's Dave and Costa. That was a great day. And here's a retired machinery operator on the site. He's been on the site for as long as it's been operating as a landfill. And we have our 22-seater magic bus. And when that goes and picks up kids, they know something special is going to happen. That's our magic bus. And we love our bus, and we're about to upgrade. So we hope that looks electric, and we hope it looks to be about 30 seats, and probably won't be, but it's going to be magic either way. And we've invested in our education centre, and that's, as I said before, a space where conversations happen. We finish the tour, we'll have a cup of tea, we process and synthesise information, we answer probing questions, and conversations so often lead to the path forward. What do we do now? People sign up for our soft plastic recycling scheme. We'll talk about product stewardship. We talk about advocacy. We even talk about the circular economy because people are ready for it after their tour. Okay, developing the story. Well, seeing is believing, some may say, but it's also not just seeing. There's learners of many kinds, hence why we don't just use visual cues. We've got oral and tactile tools. Around the maggots, we pass around the polyball. I can see people going to the maggots, that's great. We plan for moments of awe and wonder, and we hosted the AAEE conference in Albury at the end of last year, and we had the writer of this paper on the tour, and she said she had moments of awe and wonder on our tour, so that was great. We ensure our language makes it a personal story. This is where your red bin goes. This is where your green bin goes. And we also have to keep working on our accessibility through our bus, access on and off the bus to visit the upcycle store and the education centre. Okay, so who comes on our tour? That word map gives you an idea of some of the community groups that come on our tour. There's also school groups. So we average 3 to 4 tours a week. That's an average. I've got 5 next week. There's Seniors Week. We hook in with some of the significant dates on the calendar. There's Seniors Week in New South Wales and Victoria. We span that border, so that's lucky us. Recycling Week, school holidays, again, multiple because we span the border. So in 2018, we did 18 tours. In 2024, we did 108 tours. So we had over 1,500 people on tours last year. So an upward trend, we're happy with that. The tours are free, by the way. So differentiating the stories. So here's some pictures of various age groups that we come on tour. That top one is a geography class that wanted to practice their interview skills. Some classes will focus on different aspects of science. We've got a kindergarten class there. That's a bird life group. We did a knowledge exchange. They gave us a bird list, gave us lots of amazing information about the birds that are ubiquitous on the tour. And in exchange, we sent them forth as community champions around waste management. We've also got catered to culturally and linguistically diverse communities. Here is a particular community who brought their own translator. We also showcase our success stories. We also strengthen the understanding that we are good waste managers here in Albury-Wodonga. It is our social norm. We lay out an optimistic path forward. It's emotional, hurrah. We've won awards for this solar farm, hurrah. We have waste professionals from all over the world visit this facility. Hurrah, you will join in with me next time. Our contamination rates in the green bin sits at under 1%. Hurrah! And in the yellow bin, 7%. Hurrah! And we've done it, we've halved waste. Hurrah! We've reached the 50% diversion goal in 2020. We've prolonged the life of the landfill. We still have 20 years left, we think. So our new brand should be Beyond Halve Waste. Hurrah! Hurrah! Works every time. So what do they think? And this is really important. I'm just going to let you read some of this feedback. We've had a visitors book since 2019. Nowadays, we have an electronic digital feedback form. We love the fact that our staff and our workers are very visible on the tour and they get some great feedback, supplementing what happens in the classroom with real-world experience. And the discussion that follows. Okay, so what about the future? Well, as our Waste Management Centre changes, so does the tour, obviously. It used to go for 30 minutes, I believe, back in 2013. Nowadays, especially me, hard-pressed to do it in under 2 hours. We're constantly trying to improve accessibility, as I mentioned before. Wheelchair-accessible bus would be lovely. The ability to play some of our new waste songs and jingles would be great. There's an opportunity, a project that's just planted its seed with Parallel Wilds. It's a Riverina-based business where students may design a 3D gaming type scenario in our Waste Management Centre using imagery and stories from our site. We're investing in our education centre. It's the last stop on our tour. It's a space where people do their synthesising, where they have the deep conversations. We have to keep up with community needs, so I'm wondering, is it time to harness the transformative power of our tours and formalise community champions? I don't know. This year marks our 10th anniversary of our community having 3 bins. Is it time to refine and develop our messages? An opportunity to rethink and refine and reimagine the future of waste management? And I'd love to hear your thoughts. Okay. So, in summary, our tours showcase, they make invisible infrastructure visible, they persuade, they educate, they entertain, they provide moments of awe and wonder, and they put people firmly in the landscape of their waste management system. We invest in our storytellers and the resources that they have. We develop the story, we honour the past, we articulate a mandate for change, we lay out an optimistic path forward. And with halving waste, we ensure our tours provide a practical and tangible insight into what happens with waste at home. And we hope that people connect their behaviours to this bigger picture that we present to them on our tours. We celebrate the success stories that we have in Albury and we emphasise the social norms around that. And that's just about it. If there's any questions... I don't have time, do I? No, great.
Questions. But please give Jen a really big round of applause. And also welcome to the waste industry. I think that you're a hoot, and I think must be an absolute gem to have at Albury Wodonga. So that's fantastic. You know how Jen was doing the yay thing? Someone found my phone. That's moving right along. It's that anxiety out of my life forever. Great. No, it was all right. I knew it'd come back. Next, Emma Treadgold is getting up, and she's going to be talking about why waste it? A plastic recycling program for schools. Fantastic. All right, please give her a very warm welcome as she gets up and continues the general excellence of slide manipulation that this team have been doing.
Pressure. All right. So I'll leave it on that. All right. Thank you so much for choosing to come into the education room. It's really amazing to be surrounded by people working in this sector. My name's Emma Treadgold. I'm from Ku-ring-gai Council, and my background a lot of sustainability people come from communications, funnily enough. So my background is in sustainability and communications, so very much all about educating and empowering. So I'll start off just by telling you a bit about Ku-ring-gai, just so you I know we're from all over the place here. So this just gives you an idea of who I'm engaging. So we've got about 124,000 residents in Ku-ring-gai, most of them over 40, 46% parents with children. So that tells you a bit about the tone of our education programs. 52 schools and 160 daycares. So education really is a big opportunity for us. That's public and private schools and preschools. So we don't deal with preschools because a lot of them are private, and daycare centres. We've got another team that does that. So the program I'm going to talk about today is primarily primary school. So we're on the upper North Shore of Sydney. If anyone's been to Ku-ring-gai, if you love hiking, camping, kayaking, it's a bit of a paradise up there. So most of our community have bushland on their doorstep, or it's very close to them. So that can be, for some people, it's a blessing. For some people, it's harder work to get them to embrace the nature at their back door. So obviously a lot of endangered species and plant species, so for us, keeping our waste out of those areas is very important as well. So to put it in context, I'm going to talk about a little snapshot program today of what we do to educate some of our students about waste diversion. And it sits within our Smart Schools program. So we've got a whole lot of programs that sit under sustainability, energy smart units. This is one of them. This is 3 years old, so we managed to get ourselves an education officer, which was long overdue with that many schools in our area. So she has worked very, very hard, the whole team's worked very hard to bring all these programs to life. So the program I'm going to talk about today is very specific, but you can see here we do everything from poetry competitions to gardening and composting and looking at our fauna. Fauna is another really big part of what we do. So what is Why Waste It? Now, there'll be some people in the room that remember precious plastic. It's still very much around, from what I can tell. This is the first project I found when I was looking for ideas around how we could present the circular economy and recycling plastic to our students. And what precious plastic is it's a fantastic program that was started in the Netherlands about 2012, and at its core was basically trying to put that entrepreneurial focus onto plastic reuse. So for people that were in regional towns or trying to create education programs, they could take local plastics and they could actually create this mini machine. So it shreds, it extrudes, and it moulds plastics. So that was my first stop. We'll get the kids doing STEM and they can build their own machine. Well, that was a little bit reaching a bit far. I think we needed really a partner that could help us do that. So we went to some universities. It was probably about 5 years of going back and forth. And if anyone knows, in council, you do really have to be very persistent if you want to see programs happen. And so in 2023, so the program, as I said, this particular program is very new, it's only 2 years old, but we came across Defy Design, and they're an industrial designer group in Sydney. They also do education workshops. So for them, the education aspect was always also quite new for them. So it has been a journey together. And they do all sorts of things. So there's many more of these organisations around now than there was back when I was looking at precious plastic, which is amazing. I think we've come a long way in only 5 years. And they turn plastics into all sorts of things. And so it was with them that we hatched this idea. First of all, obviously we did all the discussions and surveying and talking to our schools and our teachers to make sure that a project of this kind was actually going to help them, because obviously coming up with a project, then telling people that they have to take it on is not a very good way to engage with your community. So teachers told us that they didn't want us to come in and present information that they could do themselves. They wanted us to extend it beyond the classroom, give the kids a real insight into something that maybe they would never otherwise have the opportunity to see. And as we know, young minds love tech and getting their hands in there and finding out about how cool things are made. So I'll pedal back a bit and I'll just show you here, this is how we actually run our workshops. So the way this program works is that, as I said, 52 schools, we're in the pilot phase of this program. So who gets to have the workshop? It's not cheap to run, and I can answer in more detail later on if anyone's interested in knowing the figures. So it is a pilot program. We're lucky at Ku-ring-gai Council we have an environmental levy, so that supports a lot of what I do, and that allows us to be a little bit of a guinea pig in the council world. We can try out some programs, we can see if they work, and then we share everything. So we share all our frameworks, our website wireframes, anything anyone wants from another council, we're pretty happy to share it. So the process here was to develop an expression of interest. Now, obviously, not all those 52 schools are on board with sustainability. As we know, a lot of public schools, they don't get recycling bins as a given, they have to purchase those, which is quite shocking when you first find out about that. So we don't discriminate, it's open to public and private, but we do look for schools that have a commitment, so they have a teacher or classrooms that have a commitment to waste recycling. They might have an environment club, they're teaching, they have recycling bins, they're teaching about circular economy. Because otherwise, if we come in, it's a little bit of a waste of our time if the kids don't really have that background knowledge. After the workshop, they can't continue that learning. So we pick 2 schools at a time. So we've only run 2 sessions, but we're already looking at engaging 400 plus kids through the workshops we've already done. So those 2 schools are selected and they're taken through pre-workshop engagement. So our education officer does some measurement, so looking at, what's the current situation at the school, how much do the kids know, so that gives us a measure for success once we've gone through the workshops. And they're given some activities to do with their kids prior to the workshop. Sometimes they're not always done, depending on the teacher's engagement, so that's something we need to work on. We then move into the hands-on workshops. So in the lead up to these workshops, which are run for about 3/4 of a day, obviously the school day, what we actually do is we ask the kids to collect plastics from home. So this is the real differentiating factor. A lot of manufacturers or recyclers that we spoke to, and they tended to be the smaller ones, wanted to use their own waste plastics to create us an item and then give it to us. And we said, well, it's not really what we're trying to do. We really want that education factor. And so Defy Design was actually quite unique in that they were willing to take our plastics and create a recycled product, which we could then show the whole life cycle to the kids. So I'll talk a bit more about how we set that up. But basically, we ask the kids to collect the plastics. They go out to Defy Design. They're shredded, moulded into a custom mould that we had made, and they're made into classroom rulers. So we hope, and it's it seems like an easy thing. Every step of that has been very, very difficult. We didn't want to produce key rings and fiddle toys and things that were just going to go in a drawer or be thrown out. We really wanted, while it's not a total closed loop, we don't know where those rulers are going to go, they're going to be used for a lot longer than other things. So that gives you a really rough idea. Obviously, we followed up with the teacher afterwards and surveyed that way. So measurement, I could do a whole other talk just on how we measure the success of these programs. But that's very, very important. So anyone doing education, if you want to sell your program and get funding, you have to measure. So that's all in there. Again, happy to share any of the detail on that. So I'll go back a little bit here because I think for those that are really interested in the nuts and bolts of how we're doing this just gives you a good idea of how do we find someone to create a mould for us? Where do we store the mould? All these sorts of things. So This is a huge learning curve for me as well, trying to find someone that could do this. So Defy Design gave us a few options, as I said, for fiddle toys and key rings and dog bowls and all sorts of stuff. And we said we want something that can be used at the school. The kids can be proud of it, they can use it day to day. We wanted to write on it how much plastic had been removed from landfill by creating that ruler. It's made by their plastics that they brought into the school. So this is our mould. It's much bigger than it looks. It sits out at Botany, which is an industrial area in Sydney, and that's where it stays, in Defy Design's workshop. Now, Defy Design, we've got an MOU with them. They're allowed to use the mould for any education endeavours that they do. Whoever wants to produce a classroom ruler with their plastics, go for it. Particularly other councils. So we've got one other council in Sydney that has just recently started using the mould, so they get that for free. They then have to pay, obviously, to have the workshops done at their school. So that's a big future plan for us, is to use the privilege that we have with the funding to then share it with other councils. So these are the plastics that we collect. Don't ask me what the recycling number is, but there's a few numbers that we told kids they had to collect, which is another awesome way to make them learn, scrabbling through the recycling bins. The parents loved it. So we took these out to Defy Design. Then they do all their wonderful stuff with shredding and moulding it down. And these are the rulers that we produce. So amazingly, the colours are fantastic because it's shampoo bottles and all sorts of awesome stuff. And they have the school logo printed, and they've got the, how much grams of plastic saved. So that gives you a really good snapshot. There's some great photos. Ooh, not pointing in the right direction. These are just a few shots of what we do at the actual workshop. This is very much a work in progress, but I do think that rather than waiting till the program's gone for 10 years and you share all the successes, we need to be doing this stuff now. So that's why we're sharing it now. It's not perfect, but it's having some really great impacts that we can see. And being in a relatively small area with this many schools, we're a bit spoilt in terms of being able to test a lot of these. So I'm just keeping an eye on time. I'm just going to show you a short little video. Let's see if I'm as lucky as everyone else. This is one of our workshops in action.
This is a partnership with Quirindi Council and our school, and they've brought Defy to us to teach us all about recycling.
At Defy Design, they have a special way of taking all that plastic and turning it into new products, and that's what they've done with all your plastic. So you're going to find out today what Sam has done with all your plastic and how it's been made into new products. So let's welcome Sam.
And these are all the moulds that are showing the kids how they shred the plastic. This is their favourite part.
Keep an eye down as you can see the plastic coming out.
Believe in protecting our environment and also in being a sustainable community. So this helps us with educating the children, and hopefully they take some of this information home and that they are a champion for sustainability in their own homes in the local area.
There we go. So little snapshot. Sorry, again, that was not the best quality video, but gives you a sense of what we're trying to do in these sessions. And the beautiful thing that comes out of these sessions is how excited the teachers get. So as we know, teachers are so time poor. I'm married to a teacher. If they're not doing reports or lesson plans, or they live and breathe teaching. So our biggest aim with this was to create a program that was actually going to help them, not give them more work to do. So this fits in very well with science and STEM curriculum, which is really, really important for anything that we're doing. So just quickly, as I said, measuring success, program's very young, 2 years old. We've done 4 workshops, 480 students, so we're doing multiple classes over those days. 400 kilos of plastic waste. Now, I'm under no illusion that this is going to save the plastic crisis, but that's not the aim of this program. It's to set a spark in the kids, and I think, you know, Costa talked a bit about this morning. It's getting them young. A lot of them are amazingly well informed about this stuff, and they love tinkering and making and, you know, having that impression that, oh gosh, maybe I could like mince up plastics and come up with some amazing solution when I'm older. So that's what we're trying to do, and the teachers are really responding to that. So future plans, as I said, very, very expensive program to run. So we would still heavily subsidise this program, but now moving on, looking at charging an incursion fee. For those that have kids, incursions can cost anything from $25 to $50. They're not cheap. I'm thinking, you know, $10, $15 per child. That will have to be thought about in terms of how we then, you know, engage the schools around that. But that's one thing we're looking at. As I said, sharing the resources with other councils. If anyone's in Sydney and they want to use a classroom ruler mould, you are very welcome. And adapting and growing. And this conference demonstrates that. I think that we are all driven to see change in this sector. And this is just one little slice of something that we're doing to help that. And there we go. Thank you very much.
Fantastic, Emma. I think on behalf of all of us, I just wanted to say what great reciprocity to be able to gift that idea. This is kind of the future thinking, hey, that if someone gets something right, or just even playing with an idea, and I think also the thing of getting it out early, I think that thing of making sure that other people are knowing what you're doing, I just think good on you, because it's not, as you said, maybe it's not about solving a problem, but it's certainly talking about circularity and all that stuff. So congratulations. Now, I hope you're mining that gold. I hope you're thinking of those questions, because we're doing really well. We're running on time. So we're going to have our last speaker up, and that, of course, is Tiff Keller. And Tiff's going to be talking about insights into what drives households' waste to less. This is our Reduce story. Beautiful. And she is the Manager of Waste Engagement and Communications at the City of Sydney. Can you please give Tiff a huge round of applause as she goes up to us?
Well, hello everybody, and hello to those online as well. So at the City of Sydney, we are very lucky to have 2 communications people working solely on waste and recycling campaigns, and I'm one of them. And after 5 years of doing these campaigns, I found I had a big problem. While promoting things like drop-off events, clothes swaps, and how to recycle right, those campaigns actually went really well, particularly with women aged over 65. When it came to campaigns asking people to actually waste less, they fell really flat. So we set out to answer one big question: how can we motivate residents to reduce their overall waste, and not just what they send to landfill, but also reduce how much they recycle? So today I'll share with you what we learned from some community research that we commissioned and how we're putting those insights into action. And first I will also set a bit of a scene about the Sydney community. So on average, each person disposes of around 277 kilograms of waste and recycling every year. And that covers everything from curbside bins, bulky waste collections, doorstep recycling, and drop-off events. We have about 237,000 residents, and nearly 80% of them live in apartment buildings. It's a young community. The median age is 34 years, and in fact, a third of our population is aged 25 to 34, and only 14% of people are aged over 65, which is our most engaged group. Most of our households are either people living alone at 38%, or 28% are couples without children. Now to the research. It was conducted by Micromex, a research agency, in August to September 2023. We interviewed 500 local residents, which was a representative sample, by phone or online in a 15-minute questionnaire. And the questions were in 3 sections. First, we asked some general questions about their attitudes towards waste and recycling, waste reduction, and would they be willing to do it, and who do they trust to hear messages from? We then focused on food waste, since it makes up about 40% of our red lid bin. And lastly, we talked to them about plastic packaging. Oops. Because it was such a passionate topic for our residents. We get lots of social media comments about them and lots of queries about them as well. And so the goal for the research was really simple: to help us plan a communications campaign that would genuinely encourage people to reduce their waste. Now I'll take you through the survey questions and the results. First up, here are the general questions about waste reduction. So we asked people to rate how concerned they were about different issues in their life to see where household waste kind of ranks among them. And the number one issue was, did that go? Having a clean and beautiful city. Next was climate change and risks. And very last on the list was the amount of waste my household sends to landfill. So what we're seeing here is the community cares a lot about the big picture, like climate change and keeping the city clean, but they're less focused on things that they have direct control over, like what they put in the bin. We then asked people how responsible different groups are for reducing household waste, and the top 3 were businesses that make the goods I buy, the City of Sydney, and then me and my household. And when we delved a little deeper into these statistics, we found that only 11% of people said they were the most responsible for reducing household waste. 47% said someone else shares the responsibility, so someone like the businesses or the City of Sydney. And 42% said someone else is more responsible than me. So this shows a risk of people feeling less personally responsible. And for communications, it means we need to build stronger buy-in. One way we might be able to do this is by showing what the city and others are doing about waste alongside clear actions individuals can take. We then asked people how the City of Sydney could help them, gone too far, could help them reduce their waste, and it was an open-ended question, and 85% of people answered, showing that they were more open to help and support. And the top 3 themes were, drum roll, number 1, more information and education campaigns, so that was exciting to see. The second was composting food waste at 20%. And the third was more recycling options, especially soft plastics. And the first theme is obviously great news for our communications campaign. And themes 2 and 3 also showed that food and plastic waste were their top concerns before we even asked them about them. We also asked people which sources they would trust for advice on reducing household waste. And the first was the City of Sydney, followed by friends, family and neighbours, and then New South Wales EPA. So now I'm going to take you through the questions from about edible food, and we defined this as food that could have been eaten and wasn't, like leftovers or expired food, not scraps. First, to get a sense of where people are currently at with food waste, we gave them a list of food waste reduction actions that they could take to reduce it. And we asked them whether they mostly do them, whether they sometimes do them, whether they are interested in doing them but they don't currently, or they aren't interested at all. We found that most people were already storing their food correctly so it lasts longer at 80%, eating their leftovers, and buying less food to avoid waste. To help us plan our campaign, we wanted to find out the best actions to target, and those are the actions that people are either sometimes doing or are interested in doing. And we found that 59% are interested in food composting or recycling. 34% were interested or sometimes write a shopping list or would like to start. And 33% sometimes meal plan or would like to start. We then asked residents how much food they wasted in the past month, and we found the people who said that they wasted the most were young people, aged 18 to 34, families with children and large households like share houses, and people who have lived in the area for less than 5 years. We then asked why people waste food, and on average they gave about 4 responses, which means that there's no one-size-fits-all solution. But the top 3 reasons were: the food was off, food gets forgotten about at the back of the fridge, and food is past its use-by date. And these reasons all suggest that many people tend to buy more food than they actually need. We then wanted to know how people feel when they throw out food, and most people felt negative emotions, and the most common feeling was guilt. Guilty because they were taught not to waste food, but also guilty because others have less. They also felt guilty because the food wasted had to be grown or produced, and they also worried about wasting money. And for those that did reduce their food waste, we asked them what motivated them. And the number 1 reason was doing the right thing, not wanting to be wasteful. An equal first is saving money by not wasting food. And the third was reducing waste to landfill. I'll now take you through the questions about plastic packaging, and this included plastic packaging that could be recycled, as well as what goes in the red lid bin, which for our area is soft plastics. And similar to the food waste question, we asked about what actions people were already doing to reduce their plastic packaging waste. And for each action, we asked them whether they mostly do it, whether they sometimes do it, whether they're interested in doing it, or they're not interested in doing it. And the scores were much, much lower compared to food waste actions, which were in the 70 to 80 range. These are in the 60s range. So taking the reusable bag to the supermarket was number 1, along with refusing plastic bags at the supermarket. Research was done before Coles and Woolies switched to paper bags though. And the third was reusable water bottles. Again, for our campaign, we wanted to know which actions we should encourage, and those are the ones that people are only sometimes doing or are interested in doing. And we found that people would be willing to choose to buy products with minimal or environmentally friendly packaging. They would be willing to avoid products that are overly packaged. And they would be willing to choose to buy cardboard packaging over plastic. So it's really the same action, all these 3 things. We need to encourage people to think about the product and the packaging that it's in before they buy it. When we asked residents how much plastic packaging they wasted in the past month, we found that everyone is throwing out plastic. It's extremely hard to avoid, but the people who said that they wasted the most were, again, young people aged 18 to 34, and people who've just moved to the area. We then asked people what motivated you to reduce your plastic packaging, and on average people gave 5 reasons from a list of 8. which suggests there are also several messages that we could use. But the top 3 reasons were, number 1, reducing the amount of waste that goes to landfill. Number 2, doing the right thing, not wanting to be wasteful. And number 3, helping the environment. Interestingly here, there's a lot more environmental themes compared with food waste for motivations with plastic waste. So, now we have all the answers. How are we going to apply the research? So, first, council is trusted. We ranked number 1 as the most trusted source of information on waste reduction compared with other groups, and people wanted more education. Young people are less involved. They're much less likely to be taking the actions to reduce their waste, so we need to target the young people. Third, residents want to reduce their waste. The data shows that people do want to make a difference, which puts us in a good position. But most people also feel that others are more responsible for reducing the waste than they are. So finally, we need to show what others are doing. If we highlight what the council, the community and influencers are doing to reduce waste, it could help inspire action. And since people are motivated by issues like climate change and a clean and beautiful city, the challenge is to connect these individual actions to those bigger outcomes. So we've started to use some of the findings in our communications. And to reach young people, we are using media like Instagram Reels and TikTok. And we have here an example of a POV, point of view video, and we've used this for our Ultimo recycling pop-up. It takes you through the service from the point of view of a customer. And it's all shot on iPhone. You want to play it for me?
Come along with me to the Ultimo Recycling pop-up to finally recycle some of those tricky household items I've been stumped by. The great thing about this pop-up is the huge amount of items that you can drop off. It's everything from food scraps, polystyrene, coffee pods, small metal items, and even things like blister packs, vapes, and x-rays. The whole process takes 5 minutes. You can check it out every Tuesday from 2 till 7 p.m. and finally recycle those hard to get rid of items responsibly.
In the next video, it's from our Sustainable Christmas campaign. It's user-generated content, which is a fancy way of saying we went and interviewed people. And we wanted to encourage people to buy experiences rather than things that are ultimately wasted. So if you can play that one.
What's the most Sydney experience you can give someone?
I think definitely something relating to the Opera House. I just went to Troy Savannah, the Opera House, and it's just such an amazing view, experience inside and outside.
I think in Sydney we have the best restaurants and the best cafes, so I would definitely recommend getting a voucher to eat out somewhere.
Easy classic, you could do the Sydney Harbour Bridge climb, go grab a kayak from one of the bays around town and go kayaking in the harbour, or plenty of the free walking tours around the city.
I think the most iconic Christmas present you could give would be being on the Sydney Harbour, having a cruise, lights of the city turn on, the harbour bridge unfolds behind you. That's iconic Sydney to me.
Thanks. So these were really successful. That was our most successful organic social media post, so non-paid post. And at the Ultimo Recycling pop-up, we actually saw a spike in people coming. It went from 80 to over 100. So we were very excited about that.
Come along with me to the Ultimo Recycling pop-up to finally recycle.
Thank you. So next I'll talk to you about our food scraps participation campaign. So at the City of Sydney we have a food-only service and it's only available to about 20% of households. Most of these households live in large apartment buildings, but within those buildings only between 20 and 40% of people that have access to it are actually using it. So the goal of the campaign was to get those people that weren't using the service to actually start using the service. So we used the research that showed that people feel guilty when they throw food away, and we offered a simple solution, food scraps recycling. We also highlighted that their neighbours were already doing it, tapping into that idea of showing what others are doing to encourage action. And we used 2 main tactics. Facebook ads targeting suburbs with lots of apartment buildings in that area. You can target within a 1 mile range in Facebook. and caddy installation. So we set up a pyramid of caddies inside apartment building foyers with this poster, and we invited them to take a caddy and start recycling. Most of the caddies were taken, and staff have reported that the bins from those buildings are now heavier and fuller. The Facebook ads were a bit trickier because we ended up targeting people who didn't have any access to the service as well. But what it did confirm was that people really engaged with these ads. There was lots of likes and comments, and people really wanted the service. And we did test a few different messages, but the ones that gave them a solution to alleviate their guilt and plus asked them to join others who were already doing it won out every time. So, lastly, we have a campaign in very early development stages, and we're working on targeting young people aged 18 to 34 because the research clearly showed that they were the people who needed the most attention when we already had the 65 plus market cornered. The ideas that we're working on include getting celebrities and social media influencers involved to show what they're doing and use their channels to reach more people. Focusing on waste avoidance and recycling. We think we can't get away without focusing on recycling. It's important. We'll offer simple solutions to everyday problems like choosing unpackaged fruit and veg, and explain how small actions help reduce waste, keep the city clean and fight climate change. The tone will be fun and cheeky, and our advertising strategy may include podcasts, social media, supermarkets, outdoor ads, gym advertising, Reddit, very popular these days, Google and YouTube are just some of the ideas we're floating around. And with these channels, we feel like we can reach young people and also, importantly, reach them at moments when they're making decisions about buying and disposing. So watch this space. Thank you.
Another really great presentation. Thank you so much. Interesting, hey, that last list that they were looking at, you know, really when we're thinking of that 18 to 34-year-old, that's really good to hear that sort of list thinking around stuff. I just wanted to say too that all three of the team who presented, who showed us like videos that they'd made themselves, who all apologised for those videos. You just shouldn't, because it's like there's no rules on content. If it's telling the story, no one cares anymore. And here's me, a filmmaker, saying that. Of course you care when you see my incredibly beautifully made content, right? But that's for a different reason. Like, we were also shooting, you know, on a day-to-day on an iPhone and, you know, putting up content fast and furious. There's all different reasons. But I loved every piece of content that we saw this afternoon, gave a really clear message, and I loved it all. So, yeah, don't apologise. It's about us getting it out and getting it fast. What else did Tiff say just right there at the end that I went, oh, yeah. Talking about people. Oh, gyms, right? When we talk about gut health and the obsession of people on gyms, yoga, gut health, feeling good, making the story and connecting the story between our gut and soil, I just think there's something really big here. And I think that we've talked about it for the last few years, and I think we're just starting to see it filter through, that health of people, health of soil, being a great food, as you say, don't be embarrassed, because this is coming back to make, you know, beautiful food. We're keeping the nutrients in the cycle. Of course, buying less is best, but it's rather than feeling terrible and just hiding it away in that red bin, is put it in the right place, because then it returns. Those nutrients keep in the cycle in our gut. I think there's a lot to be said about bike riders and yoga people and gyms and stuff to have those conversations. But enough of my observations. Look, we've got some time. Who has, I might get the guys just to, you can either sit on the edge of the stage or hang out we'll just have a little hangout at the front here. Anybody who has been mining the gold and looking for some questions, who is around and about, who's got a question? Oh, look, it's all happening.
Thank you. Great presentations from everyone. I've got a question about like the waste management facility tours. So we've done tours with other council staff or other organisations, but not with school children or I guess just the community. Did you have any OHS issues starting those up or not really?
I'm sure there was. Being a newbie, I didn't have to go through them. Is Rowan or Andrea? No, they've gone. Great support. I asked them to be here for these kind of questions. I'm sure there was, and it's constantly evolving too. The tour has changed just in the 12 months that I've been delivering it. It's nothing kind of, the same safety rules apply to anyone visiting the site. Yes, we go behind the scenes, we stay on the bus. When we get off the bus at the recycling centre, we stick to the rules, yellow lines on the ground. We've got to wear safety glasses now, but the kids love that, so that's great. Vests, and teachers always maintain supervisory role. And I have to keep them focused on the students a lot of the time because they're so interested in the poly machine. But, so it hasn't been a problem. I feel the tour is very safe. I've worked taking kids out bush a lot. I think it's a really safe product, for want of a better term. Yeah.
I'll check in with Linda. Linda, we've got Linda Tuva here's from Any Waste and Suzanne Lynch from Clarence Valley Council. Not that we've got favourites, my favourite council. And first, you've got to love your origins, right? Just because you've got a lot of councils, how many deaths and near-death misses have we had on waste tourism, like when we've got people coming to landfills? Have we had any?
So the school, if a school was coming, they would request a risk assessment, which we've got on file, pretty standard. Just outlines all of the cracks in the pavement and the directional arrows and the safety vests and those sorts of things. So that's usually pretty much all we need to cover that safety. But of course, obviously the hands-on thing is really important. And like you said, a lot of the time we lose the staff because they are so curious, and that's great, but when you've got, limits or you've got more than 25 in your care, it becomes a little bit tricky.
But what I suppose I'm suggesting is I've never seen it on the news that we've lost a kid at waste, like on a waste tour. Kiddie lost today.
Perhaps there's also a risk assessment for those taking the tour as well when you're on the bus and you've got a bus load of kids, that earplugs would be highly suggested. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. They don't talk about the damaged children cause, do they? Who else has a lovely question? All right, up the back here. Jog.
Just listen to the presentation from Sydney, lady from Sydney. I just noticed in your surveys the 18 to 34s are probably the ones that are the hardest to work with and most disengaged. I know our council, City of Moreton Bay, like every other council, we've been educating kids in schools for years. Years and years, I don't know how long, could be 20 years. I shudder to think that a lot of those kids are now 18 to 34 and not doing anything we taught them. So I guess it's a question for the industry, is what's going on there? So we've applied the McDonald's rule, get them young, get them early and indoctrinate them, but then it doesn't work. So how do we fix that? And my mind always goes to we've got to make them pay, or you get it for free if you're good. If you're not good, you don't get it for free. So that's kind of where the engineer side comes back in.
Oh, he's tough. Fascinating, isn't it? I think sometimes It's like anything, isn't it? In country towns, for example, we get this lag where people love living in the country and then they move away because they can't bear living in the country anymore, and then they're back, right? And so it is an interesting, they're back and they're having their families there and they're having their kids there. And I think we talk about it a lot too. There's some kind of developmental stages in people where people don't care as much as they cared at a time. But because of that solid, I'm just talking from the educationalist point of view for a minute, because of that solid grounding, that when it comes to them to change, there's another change that happens in their life from exploring themselves, exploring new work, exploring being in the city, all of that sort of caper. When they get back to having their own home, their own children, their own families, or a more settled life, those skills that they had as a child pour back in, and they become some of our best recyclers and our best people. But I'll let you speak to that rather than...
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what the question was. I feel like it was more of a comment. But, I mean, for the City of Sydney, we get a lot of transient people and a lot of people from overseas that come and live there. So sadly, all that education from the Moreton Bay residents, I don't know how many of them moved to the City of Sydney after they left Moreton Bay, but yeah, we do have a schools program. But then, yeah, it's just, we're going to experiment with these behavioural change campaign, see how we go, and we're not going to charge them money.
Yeah, did you see those, when we looked at those interviews with those young people? They're so articulate, right? They're so used to holding a microphone and speaking. And they've all got this sort of social media accent. Do you notice that as well? Like they're really clipped and they speak really clearly, and and I think that's good. I'm not bagging that out at all. I just feel like more of that. They want to see themselves in the campaign. We don't see them in the campaigns. We see kids, we see mums, we see farmers. We don't see funky, free living, free feeling young people as,
So we, by far that's our hardest group in Ku-ring-gai. And I think for us, and probably many councils, we don't have big comms budgets, and you tend to use the same staid channels, well, for us anyway. And I love that idea of Reddit and gyms and things like that. I mean, we'd love to do the sides of buses, but our comms budget is quite small. But what we've been trying to do, and this is a whole other discussion, is get young champions. So actually we do a completely different marketing campaign for that group than we do for anyone else. And we're looking at actually getting them to create their own content. So we have groups of champs that actually, and it's communication is different these days. So you can get primary school kids in classrooms, but high schools, they'll very much tune out from a classroom presentation. Everything from like coding new apps to VR to TikTok videos. I mean, there's some amazing councils. I don't know if anyone's seen the council where the librarians do the very hilarious, So I won't go into it, but look it up. I'll remember which council it is. But just doing some really, meeting them where they're at, and that's what we do for a lot of our work is actually figure out, rather than as council going, we'll put it on Facebook, which is, it's old news now apparently, only over 40s use Facebook now. So, you do really have to get them in, they're gaming, they're on socials, they're influencers, they're making their own videos and they're posting it with their friends. So how can we get into that channel? That's what we're trying to do.
I thought it was really interesting with the Aubrey looking at like a gaming people coming in and making the game within the landfill, like the site. I just thought that was cool too, because you kind of go, you don't have to live in Aubrey to get the education around that game could become a universal game. So it's maybe you will. That would be good. I was going to see Jen back here. She's great.
That the people were living transitory nature, they didn't read the education programs before, or what would you make of that information or that statistics?
So just the short-termness of people having lived in the area.
Yes, so the people that have moved to the area obviously haven't been ingrained with our education. They often are coming from overseas as well. So some of them may not speak English well. We do have translations for certain languages on our bin stickers, but we can't capture everybody. And also just getting the attention of people is extremely hard, and people live very busy lives. So hopefully with our campaign where we're kind of going big and going kind of targeted into like podcasts, and potentially when they're going to buy a morning coffee, we encourage them to use a reusable cup at like 6 to 8 a.m. Like doing those things. But as far as I think it's because it's a large group as well, because of the transient nature of the population. So we will be definitely looking at translations and things like that as well.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too about targeting. We're interviewing, make sure that even we're brave enough to interview people who don't speak English as their first language. So that, it's tricky, but I just feel like grabbing those people too. I think we've got time for one more question. Going to race over here.
They're all great presentations. This one's for Tiffany. TikTok. Did you guys have any issues getting TikTok as a channel for education? Like, were there any internal teams that didn't want you to do that? Because I found that at Canterbury Bankstown Council, they're quite conservative and don't want to do it. And also, do you see TikTok being an increasing channel to get education campaigns to the residents?
So with TikTok, we actually have I'm embarrassed to say, well, I'm proud to say actually, a communications team that's about 50 strong. And I actually sit within the resource recovery team. So the communications team went through those challenges of getting TikTok up and running, and I actually don't know what they were. But we are increasingly using it as an education tool, and it is really successful. With advertising, I don't think you can target in the LGA, you can only target for Greater Sydney. So I haven't really used it for advertising yet, but we've only used it for organic content, and we do have a channel, and we're looking at developing some more content for education for TikTok and Instagram. Yeah.
Well, I think that was great. I thought great projects, great ideas, good conversation. Thank you all, the most beautiful people at the conference with us this afternoon. Would you please give us a final, let's blow this room out of the ocean. Okay, I'm so organised. There's something else happening now. Maybe it's afternoon tea, not too sure. But there is another education session after the next break, back here with Barbara, of course, from Garage Sale Trail hosting. You won't have to worry about half asleep Kate.